Okay, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to do my best to get this lesson done in an efficient manner. However, as you can see, I have one of my miniature humans with me, and the other one will be waking up soon, and the dishwasher is going in the background. So I'm going to do the best I can. Okay. All right. So let's see. I went over that in class. This is our lesson standard, our NGSS standard that we are covering for today. We're going to be concentrating mainly on the middle nuclear processes, the disciplinary core idea. All right. So this lesson today, it's a life skill mixed in with some of the science, mainly chemistry based, but also some earth science based. I really hope that none of you ever have to utilize this knowledge, but it is better that you know it and not use it than need to know it and not have it, okay? So this lesson is not meant to upset anybody or make you scared of anything. It is simply, we're going along with our philosophy that we learned of you can't control everything that happens out there in the world. It's not on you to figure out how to try to control things. However, it is in your power to choose how you respond and how you prepare for those things, okay? Your responsibility is to prepare for things and be responsible for your own choices in your life. It is not to try to control external things, okay? So what are we doing today? We're taking responsibility and getting ourselves prepared in the case that this does happen, okay? So make sure you pay attention today. This is actually a lesson a few students have requested, so that is another reason we are going over it today. All right, so first we are going to watch a few videos. There's 3 disaster scenarios we're going to watch, and you don't need to grab that here. So one of them is human-made, and the other one is actually, the other 2 are natural, okay? All right. Excuse me a sec. Okay, so we're going to watch this first video. This is the human-made one, okay? So a lot of you are going to recognize that. That was from the video game Fallout 3. The main thing we want to emphasize there is that is a human-caused disaster, okay?
What's the chunk of rock? Rocks don't explode.
Okay, tell that to the dinosaurs.
We are still waiting for the first images of the actual splashdown as expected in the Atlantic Ocean.
What was that?
The earlier footage showed a...
I want you guys to pay attention to what comes around the corner behind him. Watch back here. Okay, sorry about that. So that was from the movie Greenland, and that was a meteor strike. So now we're going to go to the last one.
Watch out for the shock, it's coming.
Okay, and that one obviously was a volcano with the following shock wave. All right. So what I asked you all to do in class, get a piece of paper, and I'm doing these scenarios in class. The idea behind this is so you can see what you know now versus what you know at the end of the presentation, okay? So on a piece of paper, answer what you would do in the following scenario on a typical Saturday next week. you're hanging out in your house, you hear a large boom and feel what seems to be a large earthquake. You feel something hit your house, it shatters all the windows, all the power goes out, okay? And your family member runs in the room, says, hey, something crazy happened outside, I don't know what it is. So you guys run outside, and basically somebody tells you that they heard that a large bomb was dropped on either Area 51 or Nellis Air Force Base. You can see the large mushroom cloud north of the city. All right. And of course, a lot of this, we're just putting this scenario out there. I know it's probably not crazy accurate. We're going to do the best we can. Okay. Again, so what would you do? All right. What would you do? You know that a large bomb has been dropped north of the city of Las Vegas, either on Area 51 or on Nellis Air Force Base. You just survived the initial shock wave. All the windows have been shattered out of your house, and none of the electricity in the power grid is working. And obviously, you can't call 911, and everybody's freaking out, which makes sense. But what would you do? All right, let's get a piece of paper and write that down. So you guys should have wrote that down in class. So we're going to move forward. So what was the first video that we watched earlier? It was a nuclear detonation. It was in the game Fallout 3. The second one was a meteor strike, and the third one was a volcano. So what was similar between all three and what was different? Well, all three, you'll notice, had a shock wave. They all three had a ground zero as well, okay? Now, all three of them do have fallout. Fallout is what comes after it. However, their fallout is different, okay? So the fallout from the nuclear detonation is going to be different from the fallout from the meteor strike and the fallout from the volcano, okay? So all three have a ground zero. All three have a shock wave that damages things miles away. And all three have their own fallout, okay? The only one that has, to the best of my knowledge, radioactive fallout is the first one, okay? The one with the nuclear detonation, all right? You're going to notice over on the side here, I'm going to have various sources that I got these from. For instance, the American Lung Association. This one is tips to protect your lungs from volcanic ash. Next one are meteorites radioactive. No, they are not, at least to the best of our knowledge. But for this lesson, we are concentrating on the first scenario where there was a nuclear detonation that causes a radiation emergency, okay? So these are my sources for this. One of them right here is, let's see if I can open this up for you, okay? This is Planning Guide for Response to Nuclear Detonation. This is from the Radiation Emergency Medical Management.gov. And I also use this book written by this doctor, the Survival Medicine Handbook. Okay, so those are two sources that I gave you guys that you can use for this. All right, so pretty good stuff if you are interested in learning what they have in there in these sources. Okay, but first, we're going to review a little bit of the science background of what we were talking about today. We learned this earlier in the year. What are the three subatomic particles and what are their charges? Maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. I know when I asked in class, a lot of you did a good job on remembering this, okay? You have a proton, it is positive. You have a neutron with no charge or neutral, and you have an electron, which is negative. So as you can see in this atom model over here, your protons and your neutrons are in the nucleus, and your electrons are flying around on the outside, okay? The electrons have significantly less mass than the protons and the neutrons. So what is the difference between nuclear fission and nuclear fusion? Okay, so I was gonna ask you guys which one happens in stars, fission or fusion. Hopefully you guys remember this from Unit 1. This is actually nuclear fusion. That is what occurs in stars. That is what makes elements. Remember, it is the difference between a regular sized star and a massive star. Okay, remember, massive stars go supernova, create elements heavier than iron. Every other star, like our sun, is going to create elements iron and under, okay? But Which one happens in nuclear warheads, nuclear weapons? That is actually fission, okay? And again, a lot of things are going to change with technology over time. I'm giving you my most up-to-date version to the best of my knowledge, okay? Because remember, science is a constantly evolving field. We learn new things all the time, and that is why we have to be open-minded, and we have to be open-minded to things that are changed and updated. However, we do need to have objective evidence for those things, okay? Empirical evidence. All right, so fission is what we are focusing on for today, all right? So let's see here. So what is nuclear fallout? If you go to this link right here, this is where I got this. This is from ready.gov, nuclear explosion. It gives you some basic steps you can follow, but I also want you to look at what an EMP is, okay? An EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. So basically, if a nuclear weapon is detonated high enough in the atmosphere, it's not going to per se cause any damage on the ground. Physically, it is more going to be energy based. It is going to wipe out the power grid. Okay, that's the best way to think of it. If somebody detonated a nuclear type warhead way up in the atmosphere, and this is like we were talking about earlier in the year with solar flares that come from the sun. Okay, basically that energy is going to come in. It is not per se going to damage any of us or structures physically. It's just going to knock out the power grid. Okay, so that is what an electromagnetic pulse does. So it can be done with a weapon. Okay, now if the same type of weapon is detonated on the ground, it unfortunately does a tremendous amount of damage, but it also, from that initial blast and all of that energy, there is going to be a large amount of earth and debris that is going to go up into the atmosphere. It's going to become ionized radiation, and that is going to come back down. As you know, it follows gravity. It goes down at 9.8 meters per second squared, but it is going to be ionizing radiation, and that is what the fallout that we are concentrating on today. All right? So, and if you are interested, I have over here how an EMP works. And a guide to the different types of radiation. Okay, these are the 3 types of radiation we're focusing on. All right, so going back to our scenario, what is something that I taught you guys you need to do to ensure your safety? All right, what is something that I taught you guys you need to do? Remember, in the earthquake scenario, so let's say you're at your house. I would assume that the power is out, but what is something I want you to do anyway? Okay. One, I do want you to shut off all the air systems. Granted, if the power's out, they're not going to be working anyway, but go ahead and flip the off switch. But the other big thing that I wanted you to do is turn off the gas to the house, okay? If your gas lines are damaged, you don't want to die from carbon monoxide poisoning, gas poisoning, basically, and you don't want to have an explosion. So make sure you shut the gas off, okay? Make sure you shut your air systems off as well. That is in the case of this type of emergency we're talking about, all right? So what is on its way in the atmosphere? It is going to be the fallout, all right? So a lot of the damage or a lot of the danger depends specifically on how far you are from ground zero, okay? So what are some potential targets in our area? You have Area 51 that is north of Las Vegas. You also have Nellis Air Force Base, and all of this area up in here. And also there's a lot of potential targets in California, which would be bad for us here in southern Nevada because of the way the winds would carry the fallout. All right. And again, we're not trying to be terrified here. We're not trying to invoke fear. We are simply preparing ourselves with knowledge in case this ever does happen. Okay. So where was the stealth bomber developed? To the best of my knowledge, Area 51. What is north of Las Vegas? Nellis Air Force Base. All right. So right here, I want you to look at this. The most hazardous fallout particles are readily visible as fine sand-sized grains. So that is kind of what we are going to be looking for in the way of fallout, okay? So there are 3 types of nuclear fallout radiation. What are they and how can you shield yourself from them, okay? Well, there's alpha radiation. Alpha radiation is mainly dangerous in the form of ingestion, like if it gets in through your mouth or nose. So what is something that all of you guys are very prepared in the sense of? What have you guys been doing for the last couple of years due to COVID-19? Well, you've been wearing a mask, okay? So put a mask on and try to make sure it's a good quality mask, but that is going to help tremendously, okay? So we'll go over that a little bit more here in a second. Now, the second one right here, this is the one we're going to be paying particular attention to. It is beta radiation, okay? So it can be stopped by plastic. Sorry, hold on. The miniature human is getting upset in the background. Okay, sorry about that. But beta radiation, that is another thing we are concerned with here. So it can be stopped by plastic, clothing, barriers, etc. ... So as you guys can see in this little graphic down here, that is from one of my sources. It can penetrate the skin and cause beta burns, and that is why we are concerned about protecting ourselves from beta radiation. All right, come down like fine little particles and get in your skin. Now, gamma radiation can only be stopped by lead. So we are not going to be in a really good position to protect ourselves from gamma radiation. So since that is not something we really have control over, we're going to focus on what we do have control over, which is protecting ourselves from which two? Beta and alpha, okay? Beta can be stopped by clothing. Alpha can be stopped by, say, mask, face mask, or goggles. So those are the two we're going to concentrate on, all right? So let's move forward here. Now, what you would need to do in this case, after you've gotten through the initial shock, say you're in your car or something like that, you need to get yourself inside a secure building as soon as you can, okay? Cars don't offer good protection from this. I mean, it's better than nothing, but still you need to get yourself inside a secure building. Concrete or brick is the best protection. Here in Las Vegas, most of our houses are made out of stucco and wood, which isn't great. It's still better than nothing. However, one thing is most of our roofs are made out of Spanish tile, which if that tile is still intact on your roof, it should offer a decent amount of protection, okay? Just do the best you can with what you have, okay? This isn't one of those scenarios that you can afford to be really picky in, okay? This is where you truly figure out that a lot of things you complained about before were definitely first world problems, okay? Because now you got a real problem, all right? So during the initial blast, you're probably going to have a lot of injuries. You yourself could have an injury, blown out eardrums, collapsed lungs, blast damage from debris, things like that. You need to get those people inside first, get yourself in a secure building along with whoever else you are trying to help out. Then you want to render medical treatment, okay? Basically, you want scene safety as soon as possible and then render aid. So get inside, get whoever is injured inside, and then try to render aid, okay? All right, next thing. If you happen to be caught outside, say you are way outside of the city, there's a blast and you get caught outside. I don't know, maybe you're out hiking or something and you get caught in some of the fallout, okay? So the sources that I had on here said there would be about, I believe, I don't remember if it was if it was in this one or in this one, there should be about 15 minutes before the fallout starts to come down. Either way, it's not something I think anybody's there's gonna be so many small variations. Let's say you are caught outside, you're wearing, say, a short sleeve shirt, and you get some of that fallout on your arms and maybe a little bit on your head or something like that. So you need to decontaminate yourself and others, okay? So I do have a link to this in your assignment. As you can see on the bottom, this is from the CDC. There's a direct link right there. Okay, well, that link didn't work right away when I clicked on it, but yes, if you paste in that address, that will give you this. But basically what you are going to do, all of your clothing that has contamination on it, you're going to take it off, throw it in a plastic bag, throw it outside, put some new, take a shower if you can. Again, remember the power, a lot of water, things aren't going to be working. Do the best you can. Get yourself decontaminated, get inside, put on new clothes, do the best you can. If you can't take a shower, follow these guidelines right here. Wipe yourself down with a wet washcloth. Again, just do the best you can, okay? Get yourself and others decontaminated. Do the best you can with what you have. The key thing would be to have some rags and water stored up just in case, all right? Which is something you should have anyway. All right, so you get yourself, your family inside a secure building. Again, do the best you can. What do you do now? Well, you want to get as far away from the walls and the ceiling as possible. So as you can see, buildings that are higher in elevation offer better protection, but still do the best you can. I know you're sitting there going, well, Mr. Four, all the windows blew out. What am I supposed to do? Well, if you can, get some stuff in front of that window. Get some sort of matter, something physical in between you and those windows. And yes, that is my daughter laughing in the back watching cartoons. But just do the best you can, all right? So here is this source over here if you guys would like to go look at this diagram for where is the safest place in the building. Cover your mouth and nose with a mask and get as far away from the windows, walls, and roof as possible because the windows, walls, roof, that is where the fallout is going to settle, okay? And remember, again, if you happen to be lucky and still have some power, that's why you want your air units off so that fallout is not pulled into the house, all right? So you're now waiting for the fallout to settle. Remember, the power is out, at least with our scenario. How long do you wait, and how can you get updates about what's going on, okay? So something I showed you guys in class, because remember the power's out, and I know a lot of you did not grow up without phones. Me and a lot of your Gen Xers and possibly some of your millennials did grow up without cell phones, so we're used to living without those. But since the power's out, something I would like all of you to get is one of these hand crank radios with a flashlight. Has flashlight, radio, and a phone charger on it, okay, USB port. But it doesn't use any batteries, and you can get updates from the emergency radio broadcast on it. It is a great little item to have, especially for, well, this one's $27. There's some of them that are as low as $15. Great little thing to have in case of power outages or any emergency, and it does not require batteries, and it does also have a solar power charge on top. All right, so that is one way that you could get updates about what is going on, okay? Because remember, you're going to be stuck inside for a while. All right, so how long does the majority of the fallout last? Well, if you go to this source right here, but I'm going to highlight a little bit, I want you to plan to shelter for at least 72 hours. Now, I'm doing a little bit of overkill there. It will tell you right here, and this is from this source I just opened right here. DHS.gov says during the first hour after a nuclear explosion, radioactivity levels dropped precipitously. Sorry, bad pronunciation of that word. Radioactivity levels are further reduced by 90% after another 7 hours and about 99% after 2 days. So 48 hours, most of it's gone. However, to be safe, I would say go 72 hours, okay? And again, a lot of this, there are so many variances to this. How close are you to ground zero? Where are you in relation to the wind direction to ground zero? How big was the blast? I mean, there's so many little things to put into this. So I'm just going to say 72 hours, okay? But again, you got to play this by ear, do the best you can. You got to learn to think on your feet, all right? So you're essentially stuck in place for 48 to 72 hours. What supplies do you need to make the best of this? Now, I know you guys are always like, Mr. Four, you sound just like my dad. Well, guess what? I'm a father, so I probably do sound like your dad, okay? But what do I want you to have to be prepared? I want you to have 1 gallon of water per person per day. Food supply, you need some non-perishables. Obviously, you're not going to be able to cook unless you have a camping stove or something. But just have some canned food, okay? Some pasta in a can. Make sure you have a can opener and some plastic forks or something. You can pop it open. You don't have to cook it. You can eat it, okay? Medications, things like Tylenol, Imodium AD, and a basic first aid kit is definitely going to be necessary, okay? Because you're going to have a lot of injured people. Bathroom and sanitation is something, unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about till later. A 5-gallon bucket, some trash bags, and some baby wipes will go a long way here, okay? It doesn't sound like a dream come true, but in that scenario, again, you cannot afford to be picky. All right. Because remember, the water from your toilet is not going to be working. All right. So reading material, board games, and a deck of cards will go a long way to passing time. Because remember, the power's out. So while your phone may be working, it's going to die within a little bit. All right. Medical supplies, I cannot emphasize that enough. Security items. So I'm always talking to you guys about the way things are supposed to be and the way they are. All right. There's, in my experience, two types of people in the world. There's the ones that live their lives based on the idea of the way things are supposed to be, and then there's everyone else that more deals with it the way they are. I'm one of those. I deal with it the way it is. I do realize that in a scenario like this, there are going to be a lot of unprepared people that are going to come and try to take things from the prepared, okay? So I'd say have some sort of security items set in place in case that happens, all right? So sleeping bags, pillows, and, you know, lighters, candles, lighters. I'd say have 4 or 5 lighters and have some candles, okay? Hold on one second. The other miniature person is running around in the background. All right, so what food and water supplies are safe from the fallout? This is something you need to pay attention to. So, remember, this cloud goes way up in the atmosphere. We just learned about the atmosphere. You guys know that the stratosphere is where a lot of airplanes cruise, and we talked about the Stratosphere Casino, which, funny enough, is named after one of the layers of the atmosphere. But I'd say it's going to go up out of the troposphere into the possibly the stratosphere. I'd have to measure I'm not sure the exact height, but the point is that the further up it goes, the further the wind can carry it, okay? So the higher the fallout goes into the atmosphere, the farther it is going to travel. And these particles are dangerous if they're inhaled or ingested, and a lot of them if they just get on you, okay? So fallout is absorbed by plants and animals that make up the food supply. So what does that tell you is going to happen to our food supply long term if this happens? Yeah, it's not going to be there. It's going to be gone, okay? Another reason to be prepared. All right, so what food is safe from fallout? So this information down here I got from the EPA. Basically anything that was in a sealed container. Hold on, let me drag this down. Okay, anything that was in a sealed container. It says if you aren't sure, you need to be safe, use a damp towel or cloth to wipe off cans, bottles, and packaged foods before using them, okay? Get that fallout dust off of there, all right? So, what is a potential medication given to the public in the case that nuclear war is on the horizon or a possible radiation emergency event? Well, it is potassium iodide. You can see some versions of it here online that you can buy. I'm going to tell you right now, don't go out and buy this and start taking it. This information, this is a good website right here from the Health Department of New York on radiological potassium iodide fact sheet. Use this only at the discretion of your doctor. I'm telling you that now. Use it at the discretion of your doctor. So don't go out and buy this and take it and be like, my teacher told me to take it. No, I didn't tell you to take it. I told you what it was used for, and that in the case of an emergency, it could be issued, and that you should only use it at the discretion of your doctor, okay? All right, again, this is more one of those things that I hope you never have to use it, but if you ever do, I want you to at least be familiar with it, okay? All right, so what this medication does, again, to the best of my knowledge, it puts a good amount of iodine into your thyroid so that the additional iodine radiation, the isotopes of it, are not going to get into your thyroid and give you thyroid cancer, okay? So go to this website right here, read up on this, learn about potassium iodide, okay? All right, so let's see here. After 48 to 72 hours, you should be able to venture outside. However, you need to be cautious. So what does the world look like now? Well, I would venture to say that you're probably not going to have to go to school the next day. It's time for a new adventure. A lot of the things that we whined and complained about before are definitely not going to be things that we're going to whine and complain about anymore. Okay, we are very spoiled with a lot of our first world problems. Unfortunately, at times it does take an event like the scenario we just talked about to make us truly appreciate the little things that we take for granted every day. All right, so with that, let's see. I want you guys to ask yourself this question. Are you currently in a position as a high school student in Southern Nevada to control if this scenario happens? No, you are not, okay? However, are you currently in a position as a high school student in Southern Nevada to prepare in case this does happen? Are you in a position to get prepared for it? Whether it just be knowledge and education or supplies, yes, you are. You are in a position to prepare. It is definitely in your best interest to have an emergency kit. Could be for earthquake, hurricane, volcano, eruption. Wherever you live, have some emergency supplies, okay? Those same supplies can be used for all these different disasters, all right? I want to encourage you all to further your education. Remember, your education, it's one thing no one can steal from you. They can steal your car, they can steal your house, they can steal all sorts of things. They cannot steal your education, all right? So wilderness first aid, that is something we take in search and rescue. It was very beneficial to all of us. However, even if you don't take wilderness first aid, take a basic first aid course. Get CPR AED certified and get your both wilderness and urban survival skills down pat. Okay, remember, nobody can take your education, all right? So what I need you guys to do, nomophobes, and for those who may be watching who don't know what that is a person who is addicted to their phone. That is like every student I have. Read the instructions, okay? I know you were sitting here during this whole video doing this. And then you're going to come up to me and go, Mister, I don't know what to do. Well, if you would listened, you would have known. Read the instructions, okay? That's why it says read the instructions in the assignment, okay? Go to the quizzes tab and complete this assignment. This assignment does require some more grit than usual. Oh, sorry. Hey, shh, will you be quiet? Sorry. Anyway, so this assignment does require some more grit because it is, again, in my view, something could be some life-saving information. That is why it has a bit more beefed up of an assignment, all right? So I hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a good day.